Good evening, friends. We'll start material removal processes, question and answers. And machining is a shape producing process in which a power driven device causes material to be removed in the form of chips. Casting, welding, deformation, and machining all use different forms of energy to effect a shape change in given material. Casting involves primarily heat energy. Casting, welding, deformation, and machining all use different forms of energy to effect a shape change in a given material. Machining involves each of the following: localized force energy. Casting, welding, deformation, and machining all use different forms of energy to effect a shape change in a given material. Deformation involves each of the following: force energy over large area. When chips are formed during the machining process, the characteristic of the chip greatly depend on the tool orientation and the material being machined. Small chips are generally formed by which of the following: brittle material. Long chips by ductile material. Cementite carbide, which are powdered metallurgy product of tungsten, titanium, and or titanium carbide, are combined in various mixture with cobalt and nickel to produce cutting tool tips that maintain hardness and strength of approximately what temperature? 1100 degrees centigrade. When chips are formed during machining process, the characteristic of chip depend greatly on the tool orientation and material being machined. Long continuous strips are generally formed by ductile material. A surface condition with broad uniform variation that are spaced relatively widely apart would be described as waviness. A satisfactory cutting tool material will be harder and stronger than the material it is to cut. Abrasion resistance to reduce wear, and will be able to maintain these properties at cutting temperature. A surface condition that has fine uniform variation described by the height, width, and direction of which establish the predominant surface pattern would be called roughness. This high-speed steel HSS tool still maintain cutting hardness and strength to approximately what temperature? 550 degrees centigrade. Surface finishes on machine parts are often a compromise between tool life and machine time. If cutting speed is increased, the tool life will decrease. Machines that are normally rotate the workpiece to produce the cutting motion and feed a single point tool parallel to the work axis or at some angle to it, referred to as turning or boring machines. Aluminum oxide, silicon oxide, diamond, and boron cubic nitride are all examples of each of the following: abrasive. Machines that normally rotate a specially fluted tool with two or more cutting leaves on the exposed end that is advanced axially into the workpiece is called drilling machine. When large number of small parts that do not need to have sharp detail or accurate dimension require cleaning, this method is often very economical. Tumbling. The biggest drawback when cleaning with high-speed wire brush is that the surface material may smeared, which can disguise the cover over surface discontinuities. This is problem for DPT. Machines that normally rotate special multi-edged cutter that perform the pinful cutting on their peripheral edges and permit multidirectional feeding of the workpiece into the cutting edge as referred to as milling machine. Manual or automatic torch cutting is mostly limited to carbon and low alloy steel. Electropolishing increases the average smoothness of given surface by removing material from the high spot on the material's surface. The slit or notch in a material that is removed by saw or cutting torch is called kerf. A process that first masks up the area to be affected and then immerse the past part in a suitable etchant, which is usually strong acid or alkali, is referred to as chemical milling. Ultrasonic machining that is capable of producing and maintaining tolerances as close as 0.01 millimeter is best suited for hard brittle material. The ease with which numerical control NC equipment can be reprogrammed to produce a great number of different pieces make it most suitable for producing small quantities of many different parts. A machining process that charges and discharges a capacitor and utilizes the resulting arc or spark to remove specific amount of material is called electrical discharge machining. Electrical discharge machining techniques are often used to produce discontinuities in the test standard. A modern computer numerical control machining center can have as many as 5 axes of movement. Then surface treatment and coatings. Surface treatment and coatings are applied to a number of products for reasons that can include all but which of the following: corrosion resistance, okay, uniform appearance, okay, improving physical properties, okay, sanding and grinding. Treatment is nothing to do with sanding and grinding. One of the more common methods used in the case of hardened steel is carburizing, annealing, tempering, quenching. There are different heat treatment methods. They are not case hardened treatment. Case hardened treatment, carburizing, nitriding, sulfurizing. Hardening the surface of the product is referred to as case hardening. The complete heating cycle of a case hardening by carburizing includes the addition of carbon at the surface, carburizing, hardening, and tempering. Tempering is heating and maintaining some temperature, around 450, 350, something like that, so that you get toughness, decrease hardness. Hardness will decrease and toughness will increase. The depth of with tempering. The depth of case hardening can be physically measured by destructive methods such as cutting the test object, etching the cut surface, and checking the cut depth with a measuring microscope. A faster and more useful method when knowledge is needed directly for service parts. Electromagnetic testing. ECT. The depth of case hardening. The molten cyanide method of case hardening is usually limited to case depth of 0.25 millimeter. A case hardening process that doesn't require a change of composition in surface metal is flame hardening method. It is not changing composition, it is changing only forming carbide, that's all, which is the composition of parent metal. So no changing of parent metal composition. Most common cleaners are made up of approximately 95% water and some other chemicals such as caustic soda, sodium carbonate, phosphates, and so on. Chemical cleaning process include all but which of the following method? Vapor bath, yes. Spraying, yes. Dipping, yes. Varnishing, no. Chemical cleaning, no. Varnishing is painting something. Organic paints, varnish. When cleaning agents such as sand, steel grit, or soot are directed by high velocity air, water, or other mechanical means, this process is known as blasting. Mechanical cleaning process include all but which of the following method? Cleaning for tumbling, vibration, buffing, yes. Spraying, no. By spray you cannot clean. Water slurries containing rust inhibiting chemical may carry in suspension fine abrasive particle that provide grinding cutting type action for the finish improvement along the cleaning in a method commonly known as liquid honing. Metal spraying, metallizing is process in which metal wire or powder is a process in which metal wire or powder is fed into an oxyacetylene heating flame. Then after melting is carried by high velocity air to the work surface. The bond between the metal droplets and the work surface is commonly mechanical. Metal wire or powder is fed into an oxyacetylene heating flame and then after melting. So it is carried by high velocity air to the work surface. The bond between the metal droplets and the work surface is mostly mechanical. Many objects are coated with thin 0.025 mm layer of metal as protection against corrosion to improve appearance or to add material for a dimensional increase using a complex electrical and chemical setup in a process known as electroplating. Organic coating are applied by a number of different methods. Which of the following method is the most widely used industrially? Spraying. Phosphate coated surface may be used alone for corrosion resistance. Their most common application is asbestos paint coating. Two of the most common application methods are bunderizing, parkerizing. Electrically treating aluminum, magnesium, or zinc in a suitable electrolyte produce a corrosion resistance oxide coating is called anodizing. Okay, gentlemen.